Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is September the 2nd, 2024. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Labor Day to ya. To all those who celebrate, in the States, what have you. Let's see, how's my day been going? Excuse me. Like I said, pretty good. I mean it. Let's see, no faking, no fooling. Mouse watch update. The target. How do I word this? How do I say this? Fievel has taken his great journey west. Let's say it that way. He's gone on to the great gig. It was awkward for the both of us. I'm down a towel, but it's out of the house, so that's good. Hopefully, no more squeaking, no more squawking. I'm pretty sure I heard it like last night, and then I saw it today. I actually heard it while I was like watching a movie, and then I stopped and I didn't hear it anymore. And I was like, oh, what was that? But yeah, I saw him today, and I was like, all right, let's finish the job. So yeah, that went down. Let's see here. Segueing from that into the food corner, I made this weird little dish that I just kind of came up with in my head that I just wanted, but essentially it was like a chicken and curry pasta. Yeah, so I had like the fried chicken, little popper things, put it over some pasta, had some red curry with it. Then I made a salad and some like cheesy bread with the bolillo roll and some wheat toast, wheat bread, whatever. Overall, and then I also had the rest of the samosas I had. Two little chili samosa things. So it was a good meal. It was interesting flavor profile. Also, a thing I've been eating for like a little breakfast lately. I forgot to talk about in the previous episode, but today I made a croissant and a cinnamon raisin bagel. Well, I didn't make them, but I put them in my little air fryer, heated them up. On the bagel, I put cream cheese, and then on the croissant and the bagel top, I put this honey cinnamon butter on there. Oh my gosh, it's been so good, so yummy. And then I top it with like some cinnamon sugar and then some honey. It was banging. It was yummy, 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 yummy. The other day I had like two croissants like that. It was great. All right. So yeah, that's the food corner. That's Mouse Watch. Yeah, we covered all the blogging stuff. We're all caught up on my Joneses. Like I said, I'm just hanging out for right now, relaxing today. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do our startup, and we'll get into some news. Oh yeah. From the BBC. 17 bodies found after Russian tourist helicopter crash. Rescuers in the Far East have found no survivors in a wreckage of a helicopter that disappeared while carrying 22 people, most of them tourists. The aircraft went missing on Saturday after taking off from a base near the Vachkasets volcano in the Kamchatka Peninsula. Officials said on Sunday that 17 bodies had been found so far. That area, a popular tourist destination, is famous for its active volcanoes. The cause of the crash is unclear. Though I think the theory, excuse me, is most likely like a fog-related situation. So low visibility might have led to it, but no one's 100% sure yet. Let's see. Such accidents are relatively frequent in Russia's Far East, which is sparsely populated and suffers harsh weather. 3 years ago, 8 people were killed when a tourist helicopter crashed into a lake in Kamchatka. I'm sure it's very scenic, man, but like, it just couldn't be me. I've said it before. I'll say it 1,000 more times. I do not care. I'm not a helicopter guy. That's a pro tip. Don't get on one. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or you're poor. Helicopters are scary, and it just seems like they are just prone to failure. You're just not going to see me on one, okay? So I mean, stay safe out there. And yeah, please, just it's not worth a view. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on from CNN. AFD becomes far right party to win German state election. First far right party, I'm sorry, to win German state election since 1945. Yeah, dude, fascism is back in a big way. An alternative for Germany, AFD, has become the far right party the first far right party to win a state election in Germany since the Nazi era, dealing a crushing blow to Chancellor Olaf Scholz's government with only a year to go before the next federal election. After voting closed on Sunday, the AFD was projected to become the strongest party in eastern state of Thuringia with 32.8% of the vote, and to come in a close second in Saxony with 30.6% of the vote. In another worrying development for Germany's mainstream, the fledgling Sarah Wagner, oh my god, I'm fucking all of this up. Wagenknecht Alliance, we're going to say that, BSW, a far-left party that has questioned the country's support for Ukraine and shares some of the AFD's anti-immigration streak, came in third in both states, despite only being founded earlier this year. Now, usually on the leftist stuff, y'all know I'm like, okay, that's cool, I fuck with it, but definitely the devil's in the details here. Specifically for me, the anti-immigration shit. That's very upsetting to see, and it just seems like, oh, okay, well, we'll mimic what the other other extremist side is doing because that's appealing. You know what I mean? But when you look at, I've mentioned this before, all of the parties are doing this, even the center left, and I imagine the center, yeah, especially the center right too. They're all parroting the same narrative because people are responding to it, which is really fucked up and sad to me. But when the rubber meets the fucking road, people like to talk about being supportive. But then when it's like, oh yeah, let's let these people in. They're refugees. They're on hard times. And you open your borders. And then like a year or so later, people are like, oh, let's blame all the crimes, blame all our problems on these people who aren't like us. It's their fault. It's their problem. So whenever they do something, we'll magnify that. We'll make that the end all being thing. And they're the problem. And if we just get rid of them, then guess what? We'll have a better country. In this case, we'll have a better Germany, which isn't the fucking case, but people really respond to that narrative. They respond to that fucking rhetoric. So, yeah. Let's see. Although extremism has long been concentrated in Germany's east, the result will be a concern for Scholz's center-left SPD coalition, which slumped to a dismal fifth in both states. If federal elections were held now, recent polls show the AFD will become the second largest group in the Bundestag, with the SPD trailing in third. Let's see here. Let's scroll ahead a little bit further. What else did I want to see? Alice Weidel, co-leader of the AFD, told German public broadcaster ARD that the results were a requiem for Scholz's coalition and questioned whether it can continue to govern at all. Let's see here. I guess we'll do a little bit of background. Founded in 2013, initially in opposition to the Euro and German-backed bailout of Southern European countries during the Eurozone crisis, the AFD has since coupled its rhetoric of economic grievance with a staunch opposition to immigration. The issue of immigration became more salient and the AFD more popular after the then Chancellor Merkel allowed the country more than 1 million refugees in 2015, mostly fleeing civil war in Syria. Blah, blah, blah. So that got her points with like the liberal mainstream at the time, but then over time it's just built this like just kernel of hatred, and people have been able to really like use it as leverage and say like, hey, your problems are because of these Syrian people. There was a stabbing. I'm pretty sure, yeah, we did cover it in Germany. That was like 3 days before the election kicked off. So people were like, yeah, this is all Scholz's fault. It's all like the liberal left, like allowing this open border situation. That's the cause of this. When it's like, No, it's not. And essentially, they're like saying, "Oh, you guys could try to work on like knife bans and things like that because they already have like bans on guns." They're like, "That's not going to do it. You actually have to go to the quote unquote root of it, which is the immigration issue, which is fucking bullshit." At the end of the day, there are going to be people who are going to do fucked up shit to other people. That's just a sad reality of things. It doesn't matter what fucking color or creed they fucking are. Let's see here. Um, they also do kind of like they talk to like some of the people who have like joined these kind of groups, these far right groups, which is it's very upsetting. I'll read a little excerpt here. At a campaign in Erfurt, Kevin Flurshirts, you were going to say Flurshirts, a 21-year-old public transport engineer who recently joined the youth wing at the AfD, told CNN that immigration had become his foremost concern. Hardly anyone dares go out anymore. To be honest, I find that sad, said Flurshirts, wearing a t-shirt emblazoned with "White Boy Summer," which is gross, dude. And also, just another cringe thing where you just see the American culture is just our biggest fucking export, because you just see this shit just regurgitated like years or so later, and it's like, bro, didn't we already do this shit? Like, okay, I guess you're gonna use this for your like fascist wave vibe. All right, cool. So that's fun to see. You love to see that. Let's see here. I wanted to talk about the main leader guy just real quick. The party's lead candidate in Thuringia, Bjorn Hockey, was convicted earlier this year after breaking German laws against uttering Nazi slogans in public. So, I mean, yeah, they've done definitely already extremist things themselves. I mean, more or less already parts of this group have already kind of been like labeled Nazi or Nazi adjacent. But when I say this shit's back on the menu, I don't mean it's back on the menu now. I've talked about this shit before. I've seen it in the States. I've seen it abroad throughout Europe. You see it all over the place in Africa, in every country and every continent to some extent. There is a level of just social conservatism that has just like pegged itself in. We're talking about France, we talked about that previously, and then I mean it was even hinting that like things looked pretty bad for Germany back then when we were talking about it in France. So I mean it's very unfortunate to finally get to these moments and you do see the losses come in. Shit, man, I just hope that the shit doesn't continue to spread. I know that they're kind of trying to politically kind of do a sense of contagion where they're like, okay, don't let these groups form coalitions. But if you see like far left parties who are already doing other things that are echoing from the other end of the spectrum, they could easily maybe come together. You see other center right or just right parties, maybe they find reasons to say, hey, no, it's worth it to just work with these guys. So it almost seems a bit inevitable, you know what I mean, in that regard. So, I'll be here to talk about it if I hear anything on the front. But yeah, definitely unfortunate. It's a bummer. Boo, tomato to this shit. But it is what it is. Fuck these motherfuckers, and we move. Anyway, let's move on to Wells Fargo. CNN. Wells Fargo employee found dead at her desk days after she last clocked into work, authorities say. A Wells Fargo employee at a corporate office in Arizona clocked into what would be her last ever shift on Friday morning. Her body was found 4 days later at her cubicle desk where she died sometime during the weekend, according to the Tempe Police Department. Denise Prudhomme, 60, worked at a Wells Fargo location in Tempe and scanned into the building at 7 a.m. on August 16th. There were no further scans from her either into or out of the building, the police department told CNN in a statement. On August 20th, security on site reported finding an employee possibly dead in a cubicle on the building's third floor, authorities said. Prudhomme was pronounced dead at 4:55, according to Tempe police. In a statement to CNN, Wells Fargo spokesperson Ruben Pulido said, "We are deeply saddened by the loss of our colleague, Denise Prudhomme. Our thoughts are with her with their family and loved ones, and we are in contact to ensure they are well supported during this difficult time. Wells Fargo is reviewing its internal procedures regarding their employees' safety and wellness following Prudhomme's death, Politico said, adding counselors were made available to the infected employees. Wells Fargo employees share their concerns anonymously with CNN affiliate KPNX, with some saying while most of the employees work remotely, Prudhomme should have been discovered sooner because the building has round-the-clock security presence. Some employees reported a foul smell, but assumed it was faulty plumbing in the building, according to KPNX. So yeah, this has definitely sparked a lot of talk in just like the working world, but also like in like a lot of just banking, in terms of like, are things ethical in terms of how they're working their people? Now, I'm not sure exactly what position Prudhomme had, but in terms of like investment bankers typically work 60 to 80 hours per week, but can work more depending on the company and deals they're working on. First-year analysts at Goldman Sachs work an average of more than 95 hours per week. And I've heard that that's a lowball estimate on some of their averages. Now, that's specifically for bank tellers, but you're hearing that, and I'm sure you're like me, and you're doing the math of, like, how is that possible? Like, essentially, that's barely enough time to even, like, sleep and eat and use the restroom. You know what I'm saying? But they do this so that they can get, a good sum of money and then leverage this position into better positions in the future where they get even more money. That being said, I'm not sure exactly the causes of Prudhomme's death. That hasn't been like really released or anything like that, at least to my knowledge. But still, that's very unfortunate. And people are saying it's like, damn, days went by and no one noticed. That's very sad. It's very unfortunate. You know what I mean? This person literally, it seems, worked themselves to death and no one noticed for days, So obviously condolences to the families, like what Wells Fargo says. Wells Fargo has also been in the hot seat for, a lot of other fuckery. So I'm sure they don't want to be in the news for a death of an employee that they just literally forgot about. But yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about that. I just been kind of seeing it on my news feed and such, and wanted to throw in my 2 cents there. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to our last story. We're gonna take you to Dreamworld. That'll make sense in a second. Let's go ahead and take our last break, and we'll go ahead and close it out. All right. Closing out with the BBC. Handler attacked by tiger at Australian theme park. A trained tiger handler has been hospitalized with injuries to her arm after being attacked by one of the animals at an Australian theme park. Queensland Ambulance Service, or QAS, now I got the hiccups, oh boy, says the woman, who is in her 40s, is in stable condition after sustaining cuts and scratches while working at Dreamworld in Queensland's Gold Coast. This was an isolated and rare incident, and we will conduct a thorough review accordingly, the company said in a statement. The popular theme park, which was visited by almost 2 million people each year, is home to 9 Sumatran and Bengal tigers. Sorry, I'm trying to burp to stop hiccuping. That did not work. QAS said medics were called to the scene at 9:01 local time on Monday, following an incident with a tiger, and the woman was immediately taken to the Gold Coast University Hospital, where she remains. She was quite pale and feeling unwell, but in general well, and was able to be transported. QAS acting district director Justin Payne told ABC News. She is one of the experienced and senior handlers there at Dreamworld. It's good to see she was able to be looked after by other support staff there. Dreamworld's Tiger Island attraction is one of only a handful of interactive tiger exhibits in the world, according to the theme park. Apparently, though, according to local media reports, there have been a string of incidents in the enclosure over the years, including when the then 9-year-old Bengal tiger Kato bit two handlers back in 2011. A Dreamworld spokesperson said that the company's focus now was to provide the employee involved in Monday's attack with immediate support. So, obviously, once again, condolences. Glad that this wasn't like a lethal encounter with a tiger, but still pretty scary, pretty crazy, and also crazy that this is like, not super new, not super foreign to the exhibit. But sorry. I know that a lot of people find these kind of things to be pretty problematic, and I feel like the older I get, the more I agree. Like, it's very cool as a kid to see and experience these things and go, wow, like, this really makes me appreciate nature in a way I really wouldn't until I saw it, like, live like this. But also, you think about what an animal has to go through, and it's like, this isn't a good way for an animal to live, especially a wild animal like this. It's not domesticated in any way, shape, or form. And there's so many alternatives that we've had. Excuse me, gosh golly. There's so many alternatives that we have. Like, you could do holograms and all that shit. And I mean, yeah, that's corny, and like, it's not the same. But you don't really have to have these kind of enclosures or exhibits, or I mean, hell, maybe even zoos for that matter. Maybe that's a hot take. But, I mean, what are your 2 cents? You can sound off in the comments if you'd like. Let's see. If you'd like to help out or support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. 3 ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. And hopefully you can follow me or the podcast on any of the socials, but hopefully you can subscribe to the YouTube. And that really helps out a lot. And leave a like, leave a comment, and sharing is caring. Hopefully I see you soon for some more more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.